Hi, this is Multimedia and welcome to another episode of TFR Newsroom. And today we have with us once again Frank from Nextcloud. You have made some new announcement recently, and which is about Nextcloud Hub, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we start, I just want to know, can you quickly give us an overview? What is Nextcloud Hub all about?
Sure. First of all, let me say that I'm really happy to be back on your show. It's an honor, and it's always I watch all your videos, and I think it's a really great work that you're doing here. So great to be back. Yeah, you asked what Nextcloud Hub is. So I mean, if you follow the journey of Nextcloud, then you shouldn't be really surprised about our announcement, I think. Because for a long time, we are moving from the pure file sync and share, which is just the Dropbox and Google Drive, like syncing and sharing files, more and more into the collaborations and communication space. And we do this for many, many years. But I think with Nextcloud Hub, we really reached the next milestone here, where we think we can have all the functionalities, everything together to compete with the big centralized proprietary cloud services from Google and Microsoft and so on. Because it's basically a combination of file sync and share, but also with email and contacts and calendar, with chat and email and also Office. Basically a full collaboration communication thing that you need in your organization or even at home.
So how different is Nextcloud Hub from Nextcloud that was there? Because I always looked at Nextcloud as a kind of platform where you get all these services. So what is the difference actually?
Yeah, so in the older versions, up to the version 17 that we launched last fall, the center was always the file part, so managing your files. But you're completely right, it was always a platform, which means you can go to apps, to the app section and install more plugins or apps or extensions on top of it. But it was always like the file management tool with extensions. And now if you install Nextcloud Hub, you don't need to do anything. Out of the box, it already comes with like photos and contacts and calendar and email and chat and video calling and even Office. Basically, if you just install Nextcloud Hub, it comes with everything bundled and it becomes like this whole suite. It's still a platform. We still have like hundreds of extensions that you can use to add functionality, but the basic functionality is already built in now.
So what are the core components of Nextcloud Hub? I'm assuming that it's still, the files is there where you can host files and share files. Your
Totally.
communication is there, groupware solution. So that's what I assume. Can you just elaborate what are the core components of Nextcloud Hub?
Yeah, exactly. So the core is files, as you mentioned, but then in the navigation, the first next thing you see is photos. So it's a complete new photo management application where you can watch your photos in a photo stream, but also sorted by albums or tags, or even watch on a map, similar to other application about photos. Then you have like email. There's a complete email client built in, actually with advanced features. So the email client automatically detects like tickets. So if you get a ticket from your airline or from your hotel chain or from your bus or train or whatever, it's automatically recognized and you can add it to your calendar with one click. Then there is a calendar, fully working enterprise-grade calendar that you can connect to your Outlook and your iPhone and iPad and your Android device and so on, with all the features. Then there is the chatting, the group chat. Something comparable to Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts or Slack is built in. The video conferencing. So next time we should like do this interview via Nextcloud Talk. It would be possible. And also, and that's one of the bigger news, it's a complete Office built in. So we are collaborating with our partners from Only Office. It was always available. Only Office and Collabora and other Office components were always available. But now we basically re-engineered the Only Office part to make it completely built-in bundled out of the box. So it's basically everything you know from, well, honestly, Office 365 or G Suite. It's really the same functionality.
Excellent. And I understand that some of the features or components are targeted at enterprise users. But I also see when you talk about files, me myself as a multimedia professional, I also look at solutions for file. When I have all these massive video files. So
Yeah.
who is the audience that you're targeting with Nextcloud? Do you still have the same audience, or your audience is also refining?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question. We can do some philosophical discussions around that, because I mean, I have a background in marketing and other areas. So in marketing, you always need to find your target group, and you need to like focus your product on one specific market. But Nextcloud is very generic, I have to say. It's a bit like, I don't know, iOS or Windows or Microsoft Office, which is also something that's usable for a lot of people. So we have like millions of happy home users who just run Nextcloud for their family or their soccer club, or I don't know, just a few friends. But we also have like lots of big organizations, big governments and big enterprises who also run Nextcloud. And this sounds a bit like weird for a lot of people, because I think, how can you build a product that works for very small up to very big? So far it works for us because it's so generic and useful for a lot of different people.
No, I totally agree with you. If you look at, I mean, no offenses, if you look at Microsoft Windows or Office 365 or Outlook, it is used by both consumers and enterprise customers because it caters to a simple problem. It
Yeah,
solves a simple problem that be scaled to all the way to the enterprise level. The only challenge is that is your application is scalable. That's what makes a big difference. And also at
true.
the same time, does it have all the additional features that enterprise customers want? I mean, your competitor is Dropbox. A lot of home users use Dropbox, free version, and a lot of enterprise customers use Dropbox for their version.
Exactly.
So it makes perfect sense. Now, if you
Yeah.
look at enterprise customers versus home users, are there any additional either features or functionalities or support that you offer to enterprise users? Because in their use cases, uh, their requirements are different than an average home user.
Yeah, totally. I mean, of course, what I gave you so far is just a general overview. If you look into the individual features, of course, there are obviously differences. Well, one example is that you can do watermarking when you share like confidential data. For example, you can create like a Word file or Excel file or something. You can even do collaborative editing on that. And once you share it with someone, you can share it as read only, and to protect it, you can have like watermarking in it. I mean, this is probably a feature that you don't use at home, I guess. That's more for the bigger companies. On the other hand, the feature where you can manage your photos, I don't know how many photos are managed. Maybe you as a media professional manage a lot of photos, but a lot of companies that don't have a lot of photos. So this is maybe something a little more for consumers. But a lot of features work for both. I mean, another interesting new feature is the file locking. So we got some complaints that if people like, I don't know, for example, work on Photoshop files, and then you just share a Photoshop file, you work on a file, and then you save it. But if someone else like is working on the same Photoshop file at the same time, I mean, Nextcloud automatically detects that there are different versions, but then you have like two versions of the same file, and then you need to manually merge it together again. And with the new version, you can lock a file. You can tell your coworkers, look, I'm working on that now. Please don't touch it. You can still communicate and ask, hey, I will work on this afternoon. Okay, I work on it in the morning. This still works. That's a feature that's typical for big companies.
Yeah, and since you mentioned the use cases, I was curious because recently for our own servers at TFI locally, we have massive amount of data because we are shooting in 4K and everything. So I was building some local server with QNAP, and their file manager offers Nextcloud like solutions. So I'm curious if you look at multimedia professional, because they look for solutions where they can manage their video files which are accessible to, because in their company they might have 5 editors working on different projects. So
Yeah.
do you also work with Synology or QNAP or Lacy? I think it's which is mostly a platform
Yeah.
for Apple. Do you work with them also to offer Nextcloud to their platforms so that these multimedia
Yeah.
professionals can also use it?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are working with them so far. Nextcloud is available for lots of those solutions, but as an additional add-on. So usually they have some kind of app store or something or some third-party thing. And usually if you look around, you find Nextcloud somewhere there. They usually have still their own built-in solution, which is less powerful, but it's like, well, their own solution. And so far, some of them prefer to have their built-in in-house solution. But to be honest, I'm very confident that I will switch to Nextcloud because it's so much more powerful. But I guess it will take a little more time.
Yeah, personally, I would like to do that too. The big question would be transfer speed, because when you're shooting in 4K, you do need at least 500 MB per second transfer rate. So that could be a bottleneck. So we talked about what is Nextcloud Hub. We talked about the target audience. We talked about some of the core components. What is the availability? Where can I run Nextcloud Hub? I do understand that it's designed for on-prem, where you can run it on your either own servers or data centers or home. Can I go on public cloud as well? So what are the platforms that you target?
Yeah, a lot of people think that Nextcloud or Nextcloud Hub is only for on-premise. But the real point is that it's flexible. I mean, like other solutions like Dropbox, you can only get as a service. You don't have the choice. With Nextcloud Hub, you have a lot of choices. You can run it like in a public cloud. Actually, on Friday, we announced a partnership with the biggest European hoster, and it's actually also the second biggest worldwide, called 1&1 Ionos. Some of your listeners might know it under different names because they act with different brands in different countries, but they're actually like a big enterprise with lots of services in different countries. So we offer we announce a partnership with them, and they offer Nextcloud for their customers hosted as a service in lots of different countries. So you will get it like just with one click, similar to Dropbox and Box and others. But the point of Nextcloud Hub is that you have the flexibility. If you want to go to another service provider, you find another one. If you want to run it on your NAS, as you described, at home, it's also possible. If you have a Linux server, even if you just have a Raspberry Pi at home, it also works. Or if you have a company or your university, you want to run it on the infrastructure, it's also possible. So it's about choice. It's not so much, oh my God, I don't want to have my own server. I'm not a sysadmin. What can I do? You don't have to, but you have the choice. That's the point.
So can you also install it on AWS or Azure or Google Compute? Okay. So in that case, can you also, because I do recall something, what it was federation or federated services. So is it also possible that a user can run Nextcloud Hub on AWS, expose a lot of things on public cloud where they don't care about, but they can keep a lot of things on-prem where they are sensitive, and they can actually regulate what goes on the public cloud, what goes remains. Can they do that also?
Yep.
So Nextcloud has a full support for multi-cloud as well and hybrid cloud.
Yeah, it's totally possible, and a lot of people do it like that. There are different ways to set it up. Maybe you have an instance there, and then you use some kind of federated sharing that we support, where you can have like, it looks like one cloud, but in actually are different servers that are connected. There are lots of ways to do that, but it's 100% possible, and a lot of people do it exactly like that.
As earlier you mentioned, that the previous version was Nextcloud, and now the new version is called Nextcloud Hub. I'm just curious about what are the improvements or new features or new additions that you have made to the Nextcloud with this announcement of Hub.
There are still a lot of smaller and bigger things. For example, one thing is the introduction of Nextcloud workspaces. So it's a bit hard to describe in a video, but if you go to the Nextcloud web interface, you see a file list usually, right? You go into a folder, maybe you have a folder about one specific project or something. Then it's now possible to add a description on top of the folder list, where you can say, look, this is the project where these 5 colleagues are working together, and here is whatever email addresses and how to reach each other. And by the way, this is the kind of automation and workflow that's happening. So for example, you can describe, look, everybody who changes a file in this folder automatically gets a notification in the marketing chat channel or in the sales chat channel, something like that. So this kind of automation is possible, and you can document this in the workspaces feature. That's quite powerful. Also in the calendar, we have a lot of improvements. So if you create a new calendar invite that you send out to some people, with one click, you can just automatically create a talk room. And it's automatically added to the invite and sent to everybody, right? If you had other tools like Zoom, you first need to create a Zoom invite, take the link, and then put it into your calendar, and then send it out. And here, this is all one workflow. The flow, the workflow tool, as I mentioned before, is improved a lot. So you can create PDFs automatically if you touch an Excel file, or you can send out invitations to people automatically, or you can even like trigger external services. So maybe some of your listeners know if this and that, we can integrate with that. So every time a salesperson updates an Excel sheet, the light is blinking in the office or whatever, right? I mean, you can do kind of these crazy automations now, which is really cool. In the chat and video calling app, we also have improvements. They can reply to features. We can search conversations better. There's better emoji support. So there are a lot of improvements all over the place. I think your show is too short for all the improvements, but it's a really big step forward.
Yeah, the most important thing is that you have support for emojis, latest ones. That's
yeah. Totally. It's yeah.
So when we look at this, either you call it rebranding or repackaging of Nextcloud, who are you looking at as your competitors? Who are you competing against, and why should the users of those platforms even consider Nextcloud Hub?
I don't think we have a competition which does exactly the same. I mean, in one way, the competition is Office 365 or Google Suite or Dropbox or Box. They have similar functionality, but they're all software as a service. They're all centrally hosted. Every time you want to have the same functionality but don't want centrally hosted, then people come to us. Maybe you're a bank, maybe you're a government, maybe because of security, or maybe you have a lot of data, maybe you're a research institution who generates like petabytes of the data every day. You can't upload this to Dropbox, right? You need to keep it local somehow. Every time you have special requirements, then we are the same. On the other hand, there are also other open source solutions which you can run on premises. Like C-File from China or PyDO or some others. So they're comparable from that regard, from that side, but they usually don't have the rich functionality. So I think if you want to have the rich communication and productivity and collaboration functionality and still have the flexibility to host it where you want, I think we are pretty unique. I don't know a lot of other options for that.
Perfect. So basically, if there is either an organization or individual, they want to leverage all the features of those cloud-based SaaS services, but they want total ownership or total control of the infrastructure and how the data is managed, then Nextcloud is the only solution out there, if I'm not wrong.
I think so, yes.
So yeah, I think now we've got everything. We understand what Nextcloud Hub is all about. We understand the kind of target audience, which is actually virtually everybody. We also understand what are the core advantages of using it and why people should consider it, because in this era of cloud computing, ownership of data is really important. And I really thank you for taking your time out and explaining all these things to me today. Thank you, Frank.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.